Get out if you're making less than $19 an hour. Michael's sharp voice echoed through the room, making me gasp for air. Just when my fever of 3 days had finally subsided and I was thinking of getting back to work and household chores, such an unbelievable line came flying out of Michael's mouth. "Goodbye, you parasitic trash woman." Looking over, I saw Camila next to him, glaring at me with a sleazy smile. I stared at them in disbelief. My heart had reached its limit long ago. If they're telling me to leave, I might as well get out of this house quickly. Thinking so, I took a deep breath. "All right, bye-bye." A look of astonishment spread across their faces. "Just you watch. I will make sure they regret treating me with such disdain and kicking me out like this. My name is Scarlett Jones. I'm 52 and the director of a major cosmetics company. Lumina Corporation. Lumina is a large corporation with 3,500 employees, known to everyone, whether they are into beauty or not. For a woman my age, it was unprecedented to hold such a key managerial position, and I might say, I have become a respected figure within the company. Being admired by my subordinates, while entrusted with heavy responsibilities, has become my reason for living. However, 5 years ago, at the age of 47, I got married. Back then, I never imagined someone in their 50s could get married, so I cherished the happiness of being able to do so. But that feeling of happiness was fleeting. Since then, my life has taken an unpleasant turn. I want to go back 5 years and tell you how all this came to be. 5 years ago, I married a man named Michael Jones. I had pretty much given up on the idea of getting married at my age, but then I heard that a childhood friend of mine had recently tied the knot. She told me, "Don't give up just yet." That encouraged me to push for marriage. I thought, who would want to marry me, especially now that I'm almost hitting 50? But on my friend's strong recommendation, I decided to sign up at a marriage agency. At first, just as I expected, no man seemed interested in me. But about 3 months after joining the agency, just when I was starting to think about pulling out, I got a request from Michael, who is now my husband, wanting to meet me. Checking out Michael's profile, I was surprised to find he was 10 years younger, only 37. He was managing a cosmetic retail store and had been married once before, with a 10-year-old daughter. From the impression I got from the photo, he seemed to have a sincere face and was engaged in a respectable job. Considering he had a child due to his age, I thought it was understandable and decided to meet with Michael initially. Looking back, that was the beginning of everything. From our first meeting, Michael and I clicked incredibly well, despite the age difference. Our conversations flowed unexpectedly well. Thinking about it now, he must have researched what my generation was interested in to get along so well with me, which I greatly appreciated. After that, we met a few more times without any issues, and eventually, Michael asked me out. I thought that with someone straightforward like him, a serious relationship could work, so I immediately said yes. Even after we started dating, Michael seemed genuinely interested in me despite being 10 years younger and enjoyed our conversations just as much as the first time we met. We decided to get married half a year after starting to date. It might be considered a whirlwind marriage by some, but since both of us had originally signed up at the agency with marriage in mind, getting to the altar in 6 months felt just right. Like I mentioned before, I have a daughter, Camila, who's now 10. She's a good kid, and I think she'll take to you, Scarlett, pretty quickly. The first time I met Camila was right before Michael and I registered our marriage. "Hello. Scarlett, I know I might be a bit of a bother, but I hope we can get along well." Seeing Camila, who at 10 years old greeted me with such politeness and vitality that it was hard to believe her age, I was truly astonished. I was utterly taken aback, even more flustered than I'd be. "Hi, likewise. I'm Scarlett, I'm gonna be your mom from now on. I hope to get to know each other well." As I bent down to meet Camila's gaze and smiled, she grinned back. I was relieved. Despite my worries about what kind of person she might be, if she was this straightforward, I felt confident we could build a good relationship. Feeling utterly relieved. That's how my married life began, but upon getting married, I invited Michael and Camila to move into my apartment. They had been living in a cramped public housing unit, and I thought my place, which was in my name, would be just right for the three of us. Wow, it's so spacious and beautiful. Camila seemed to like our home, which was a relief. I was thrilled, thinking about the fun life ahead for the three of us as a family. But I had no idea at that time that Michael and Camila were acting, conspiring together to deceive me. The cracks in our married life started to show just a few days after. Look, I'm at work during the day, so all the house chores are on you. Oh, and I don't like eggs in my food, so leave those out. Camila's not a fan of meat in general, and she doesn't really like vegetables either, so keep that in mind. And don't forget to think about nutritional balance for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Make sure you clean the bathroom and toilet every day too. All right, I'm counting on you. Michael's words were so casual, I couldn't believe my ears. But I work too. Work? You mean like a part-time job or something, right? I'm a store manager, so I'm way busier than you. I married you despite the age difference, so you can at least do that much, right? What? Words I never expected came out of Michael's mouth, leaving me dumbfounded. When did I ever say I was a part-timer or a contract worker? Indeed, I had only mentioned working at Lumina Corp, but I was shocked he assumed I wasn't on full-time staff. Probably, he couldn't imagine a woman my age being a busy director. I'm a full-time employee, you know. I work a solid 8 hours too. How about we split the house chores? Despite my suggestion, trying to get out of housework by lying, huh? Well, I'm off to work, so do what I said, he said without lending an ear and left. The next morning, even Camila lashed out at me, I can't eat sausages. Didn't Dad tell you? I can't eat this, so make something else. I was baffled by Camila's sudden change, she seemed so nice before. Frozen in place, Camila, perhaps irritated by my inaction, stood up and threw the sausages into the garbage disposal herself. Hey, what are you doing? I couldn't help but raise my voice. But, as if she hadn't heard me, Camila just said, hurry up and make breakfast. Or do you want Dad to ditch you, with a mean look in her eyes? What a turn of events. I was completely fooled by Michael and Camila, who were just pretending to be good people. The realization made me feel dizzy. In a daze, I ended up remaking the breakfast as Camila had demanded. She said she could eat French toast, so I made it specially, only for her to throw it on the floor saying, "It's too late now, I'm gonna be late for school." Left in shock, she then said, "I'll buy something from the store, so I'm taking this," and took my wallet from my purse before leaving. What on earth is going on? I muttered to myself in the empty space. I felt my heart pounding and a bad premonition took over my mind. Michael didn't marry me because he loved me, he intended to use me as a maid from the start. The moment I realized that, I felt so furious I thought my face would catch fire. But even knowing I was deceived by Michael and Camila, I couldn't bring myself to think about leaving them right after getting married. Looking back, I should have bravely faced a divorce if it was a mistake, but I was too embarrassed to let others know that I, nearly 50, had separated so quickly after getting married. My useless pride trapped me in a miserable situation. From that day on, Michael dumped all the household chores on me, and if he didn't like the meal, he'd yell, "What's this disgusting food? How many times do I have to tell you no eggs?" Though he disliked eggs, it wasn't like he was allergic, so I used them in cooking. Camila was picky too, and eggs were the only protein she would willingly eat. So, I ended up serving eggs to both, which apparently upset Michael. Absolutely useless. This is why you can't do anything right, earning a mere $19 an hour. Michael insulted me, thinking I worked for the minimum wage of $19 an hour in the area. In reality, I earned more than Michael, but he didn't know about my actual income. So, he probably wants to say whatever fits to immerse himself in the superiority of thinking he's in a higher position. Moreover, Michael was desperate to get his hands on the money I made. Camila is planning to go to a private high school, So you'll need to start saving $2,000 a month for that," he commanded, expecting me to save for Camila. I was willing to save for her education, but while I was saving diligently for Camila, Michael was secretly squandering money on his horse racing hobby, always coming back in a bad mood after losing. Moreover, he'd always come back in a bad mood after losing every time. Michael also had a terrible temper when drunk, so I frequently bore the brunt of his outbursts. This has been my life for the past 5 years. Now, not just Michael, but Camila too started making unreasonable demands like, "I want to take piano and volleyball lessons, so make my allowance $1,000. Now in her 3rd year of middle school, she had become even more articulate. "If you're taking lessons, shouldn't you just pay the monthly fee? Why do you need more allowance?" I was already giving Camila a lot of allowance, and on top of that, saving for her high school. I didn't want to give her any more money. Besides, she says it's for her lessons, but it's clear she just wants money to hang out and do no good with her flashy friends. "Shut up. Living with a stranger like you, the least you could do is give me an allowance." Camila was furious when she didn't get the answer she wanted from me, her face turning red. How long will this life continue? An uncertain future has been haunting me for years. Feeling down about what lies ahead, I was called by the president at work one day. Worried I might have done something wrong, I headed to the president's office, wondering why I was summoned. "Thanks for your hard work." About that talk. The president, now 60, was originally a salesman like me before climbing up the ranks. With a hearty physique, he squinted at me with a warm smile. "Actually, I'd like you to be the next president." "Excuse me?" I was shocked by the unexpected proposal. "I don't have a family, and I've been thinking about handing over to a capable employee. It's about time I retire." And when I thought about it, your face came to mind first. "You're well liked by your subordinates, and I think you can handle being president." He went on about why he thought I was the right person for the job. Honestly, it felt good. Initially, I thought being president was absolutely impossible, but as I listened to him, I somehow started to believe that maybe I could do it. Maybe it was just his way of speaking, but after he finished, I found myself saying, "I'll give it my best," and accepted the position right there, which was surprising. "Thank you. Now I can rest assured about the future of our company." The president laughed heartily. Being recognized for my abilities by the president felt like a ray of light in my troubled home life. Half a year later, around the new year, I took office as president. My colleagues were very surprised, but they blessed me, saying if it was Jones, she could handle it. From now on, I decided to put my family issues aside and focus on my work. Leading a company with 3,500 employees wasn't going to be easy, but my motivation for work was overflowing. However, at home, the harassment from Michael and Camila escalated. I hadn't told Michael about my new position, so I was still branded as a lazy person who couldn't even cook properly at home despite only being able to do part-time jobs. Camila's way of spending time and the friends she hung out with became even more extravagant than when she was in elementary school, and whenever we made eye contact at home, she'd sarcastically say, "What are you staring at? Stop, it's making my eyes rot." At this point, it was absurd that our family relationship was still ongoing. I found myself even more out of place at home, thinking about work all day. So, after becoming president, my days were incredibly busy, and I often got home later than Michael. But even when Michael got home before me, he wouldn't do any housework. Instead, he'd say things like, "You're just a part-timer, and you can't even get home on time. Where have you been wasting time? With a man? Though, I doubt any man would want to be with an old lady like you." Disgusted, I would start preparing dinner despite my exhaustion. It was only natural that I'd fall ill after living like this. One morning, I woke up feeling clearly feverish and with a throbbing headache. When I checked my temperature, it was 102 degrees. That day, I couldn't do anything but lie in bed. Of course, there wasn't a kind soul in this house to take care of me, so I just kept drinking water and enduring it. Everyone at work was kind, telling me to rest until I felt better. But home was like hell. Hey, don't use your fever as an excuse to skip out on housework. I know you're just faking it. Not making breakfast for your daughter, how low can you get? Seriously useless. Despite being bedridden with a fever, I had no energy to fight back against the torrent of abuse from the two of them. Fighting off the fever and chills alone in bed, it finally felt like I was recovering after 3 days. Just as I was crawling out of bed for the first time in a while to start preparing breakfast and catch up on all the housework that had piled up, Michael and Camila, still in their pajamas, blocked my way. What do they want now? Are they planning to throw another insult my way? But by now, I've gotten used to their petty remarks. As I was lost in thought, Michael finally took a deep breath. The loser making $19 an hour needs to get out. When Michael's sharp voice filled the room, I gasped. Just as my fever had finally gone down and I was ready to get back to work and house chores, such an unbelievable line came out of Michael's mouth. Goodbye, you parasitic trash woman. Looking over, I saw Camila next to him, glaring at me with a sleazy smile. I stared at them in disbelief. My heart had already reached its limit. I had been numb for so long, but I realized I had no reason to stay with these two any longer. I felt my rational thoughts returning. If they're telling me to leave, then I'll gladly get out of this house. Thinking so, I took a deep breath. All right, bye-bye. A look of astonishment spread across their faces. Just watch. I'll make sure they regret treating me this way and kicking me out like this. In front of Michael and Camila, I started packing the essentials into a large suitcase. They smirked and watched every move I made. Do they really think I won't leave? When I finished packing, I could see a hint of panic on their faces. Then, I'm leaving. Goodbye. I said and left the house without looking back. Michael and Camila just snorted in response, probably thinking I'd come back by night. But I had already made up my mind. I wasn't so downtrodden that I needed to leech off them. And newfound courage was pushing me forward more than ever. I headed to a condo a few train stations away from where Michael and Camila lived. Turns out, I owned a condo unit there, separate from the one I lived in with them. I own a couple more, but those are currently leased out to others. So, this room was the only one available. Knowing I had this place was what made me able to leave Michael and Camila so cleanly. When I reached the empty room, exhaustion hit me all at once. That day, I was too tired to think much and just rested in bed after putting my things down. After some time, as the reality of my escape sank in, I started to ponder how to get back at Michael and Camila. Even if I go through with the divorce, what else can I do to teach them a lesson? I thought to myself, plotting alone in the room. Coming to this house without them, I realized how much lighter I felt. So, I didn't need them after all. Savoring the newfound sense of freedom, I was fervently plotting my strategy. It had been 2 weeks since I left Michael and Camila's place. During these 2 weeks, I had been executing a plan to teach Michael and Camila a lesson. It might be about time for it to start showing effects. Every day, I went to work tense, managing the responsibilities of a president, when my smartphone began to ring incessantly. Since becoming president, I've been receiving a lot of calls, so I thought it was just another employee, but when I looked at the screen, it showed Camila was calling. I was in the president's office at the time and could have answered right away, but a call from Camila was obviously going to be nothing good. I decided to prioritize the mountain of work in front of me and ignored the call. However, Camila's calls would stop only to start again, repeating this cycle about 10 times. Finally, I lost my patience and decided to answer Camila's call, pretty much knowing what to expect. I pretty much knew what to expect. I took a deep breath, pressed the call button, and brought the phone to my ear. Ah, you finally picked up, you old hag. How many times do you expect me to call? Answer the phone already. Wasting my time. Camila's opening barrage was filled with venom, and I was immediately taken aback. What do you want at this hour? I'm still at work, you know. Work? As if a part-timer like you has work. Your company is like super black, isn't it? Camila apparently still believed I was doing part-time work and scoffed at the mention of my job. All that for a part-time job, and you can't even do a single household chore properly, totally useless. Dad really chose the worst person to remarry. And what do you want? Not wanting to deal with Camila's pointless insults any longer, I went straight to asking her purpose. Right, it's your fault I can't go to high school now. What are you going to do about it? Camila screamed as if venting all her pent-up stress. As I thought, the plan I had set in motion after leaving their house was starting to have its effect after just 2 weeks. I couldn't help but smirk internally. What do you mean, what are you going to do? It was you and your dad who kicked me out. But I didn't think I'd end up not being able to go to high school because of it. Dad suddenly says there's no money, and I don't understand. All the money you were saving up was a lie, wasn't it? Camila's shrill voice was grating. I could guess what she was going on about without even needing to listen. After leaving their house, I had withdrawn all the savings I had set aside for Camila's tuition. It was my money, after all, and what I did with it was my business. Well, I did save up the money. But since you and your father seemed to have no more use for me, I withdrew it. But doesn't your father have money saved up? I asked, thinking that Michael, who dotes on Camila, would somehow come up with the tuition even without my savings. Camila groaned, there's no such thing. Dad's blowing all his earnings on horse racing. Absolutely idiotic, and then began to rant about Michael's shortcomings. Just then, I could hear Michael's voice in the background on the call, indicating he had heard Camila calling me. But why is she at home when it should still be work hours? As I wondered, Michael snatched the phone from Camila and came on the line. Hey Scarlett! What's all this about? Why is Camila's tuition gone? And you even sent over a divorce paper, what's that about? No, before that, some realtor came saying they're putting this house up for sale. Ah, and why have I been fired from my job? Michael's voice, filled with questions, was trembling. His words might seem disjointed, but I understood exactly what he was talking about. I took a deep breath to calm myself. The time had come to settle things with Michael and Camila. I had to brace myself for this confrontation. For the sake of my future, I was determined. The tuition was originally my money, and what I do with it is my business. You and Camila were the ones full of snide remarks, driving me out, so you reap what you sow. As for the divorce papers, as you can see, please sign and submit them. Selling the house is my decision too, since it originally belonged to me. It was a good time to sell it for a high price. You were fired because I exposed your true nature to your company and declared I would cease all business unless you were fired. Maybe that's why? I answered each of Michael's questions one by one. Yes. After leaving their house, I had devised various strategies to get back at them. I had been thinking about divorcing for a while. Divorcing and claiming alimony was just the start of my revenge. The punishment for Camila was withdrawing the tuition I had saved. She didn't even like studying, she only wanted to attend a fancy private school for appearances. Isn't that incredibly presumptuous? And I decided to sell their house. Knowing all along it was mine, yet they dared to mock me for being a part-timer. The last straw was declaring to cease business with Michael's company. As president, I had that power. Michael's company bought a significant number of products from my company, Lumina Corp., so without our business, they would lose customers. Just as I planned, Michael's company's upper management chose to keep business with Lumina Corp. By firing him instead. A wise decision. What the hell is happening? I get the divorce and withdrawing the savings, but why can you, a mere part-timer, decide to stop doing business with my company? You were nothing more than a tool to keep the household running and earn money until Camila graduated high school. Why else would I marry a woman 10 years older than me? Clueless Michael still couldn't grasp why he was fired. Seemingly, His own impending crisis concerned him more than Camila's inability to attend high school. Camila's voice could be heard in the background. "Wait, what about me, Dad?" And then I revealed the real reason he married me. "I see, so that was it." No wonder it all seemed so odd. Damn it! If I knew it would come to this, I never would have married you. Marrying you was the biggest stain on my life. Michael spat out, enraged. Feeling my own anger boiling over, I took a deep breath towards the phone. "You know, do you understand that all of this is your own fault? I never once said I was a part-timer, did I? You just assumed that on your own. Actually, I became the president at the start of the year. I was originally the director of sales. So, my salary is higher than a retail store manager like you, didn't you know? I mean, how else do you think I could afford to buy several houses? Using my authority as president to stop doing business with your company was easy. I thought marrying you would make me happy. But, it looks like I was wrong. Getting involved with someone like you, I was really foolish. Camila, too, got what she deserved for treating me as nothing but a convenience. But it's just high school she's missing out on, not the end of the world. Well, if she had studied seriously, she could have gone to a public high school. Too bad. Now, I'll live my life happily on my own, so you two just do your best living a poor life. Don't ever call me again. Goodbye." Hey, wait a minute. So, there's still something to talk about. I cut off the call, ignoring Michael and Camila's attempts to stop me. Alone in my office, I let out a sigh. "President, is something wrong?" My secretary asked as she came in. "No, it's nothing. I'm just really glad I can work at this company." "I feel the same way. I look forward to continuing to work with you, President." Seeing her smile, I felt reassured that everything turned out for the best. I resolved to live strongly as the president of Lumina Corp from now on. I made that promise to myself. A few days later, Michael submitted the divorce papers to the courthouse, and I officially became single again. Of course, I received alimony through a lawyer. I used to feel lonely being single, but now I think it's far better than being married to someone like Michael. I can only imagine the kind of life Michael and Camila are forced to live now. I heard this from an employee at the company Michael used to work for. After being fired, Michael tried to find another job, but his job hunt was difficult. Apparently, since becoming a manager, he started slacking off, using his position as an excuse. It was well known within the company that his subordinates had various complaints about him. This attitude of Michael's spread among other businesses, leading to him being rejected in interviews within the same industry. No wonder. No company would hire someone known to be lazy from the start. Thus, Michael had no choice but to enter an entirely different field, but no company wanted to hire a 40-year-old man with no experience in their industry. Having given up on finding a full-time job, Michael resorted to working as a cleaner to make ends meet. But with just a part-time job, they couldn't afford a luxurious lifestyle. Michael and Camila moved to a rundown apartment, and Camila was also looking for part-time work. Yet, Michael's gambling habit persisted, squandering the little money they had on horse racing, leading to despair. Such a foolish man. I felt ashamed for ever loving someone like Michael. Michael and Camila are bound to walk a thorny path from now on. I've decided not to help them in any way. I wish them to crawl at the bottom of hell. Meanwhile, as decided, I am busy day to day with the duties of being the president of Lumina Corp, caught up in the whirlwind of my responsibilities. But it's not an unpleasant kind of busy. If I work hard, the salaries of my employees can increase, even if it's just a little. Thinking this way makes me want to approach my work with sincerity. I'm still a rookie president, but I have many subordinates who look up to me. Though there will surely be many challenges ahead, I want to overcome each obstacle with my valued team members. That's all I wish for.